I don't know if you can tell, but I'm not a prop and I've never been in a scrum. You mentioned before that there's the big advantage of Dan Palmer being an ex-prop, actually teaching you so many skills through scrummaging. Can you kind of try and describe to someone like myself, and I'll put Nelson with me as well, what's it like being in the front row of an international scrum as an actual experience, and what you feel and what you go through? And then also from your point of view, when you go into that space, is it just push as hard as you can, or is there a lot more tactical effort that's going into it, a lot more mind games? What's the balance of that as well?
Yeah, I think it's like the easiest way to put it is probably like a max squat,
Yeah.
but you want to be in the perfect position to deliver that technique, and that's all like the setup, the crouch, the bind, like that sequence there. You want to put yourself in the best position to be able to max squat, which is the set call, which is when you engage.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a bit of mind games, there's a bit of a setup, your alignment, you're constantly doing review, but it's purely around knowing what your best setup is and how you're going to try and get that. So you're doing that through the footage first, before you come and step on the field, and then you're looking at the pictures there. There's a few headbutts that go on, and you're sending pressure in different ways. Just in terms of it just depended on who you're going up against, but you want to try and create your own space, so you can have that max lift, so you're coming out of the scrum in your first few seconds, just trying to catch your breath back, because I normally hold my breath for the whole duration of the scrum, just constantly turning everything on, once you switch off for a second, it's enough for a collapsed scrum or for your scrum to go backwards, or for you to get injured, mate. So it's pretty intense.
You're talking about like you're picking different angles and maybe pressuring different shoulders, different things like that. I don't know, like it's not an analogy I've ever really thought of, but is it kind of like maybe you're a spin bowler and you're trying to make them, lull them into a sense it's coming in a certain way, and then you're changing your angles? Or is it like, this is where the hole is, this is where they're weak, I'm going to keep hitting that thing, driving that thing home? Is it like that sort of in-depth mindset?
Yeah, I think for us, all we want to do is just stay parallel to the sideline. Like we just want to stay square, because now we see refs like they just 50-50 for them, mate. It's a gamble, But if they're seeing us stay parallel to the sideline, then they're probably like, you're gonna get awarded a penalty.
They give like a 45-degree angle allowance.
like the spider cam doesn't help with my big mate. But yeah, like he's but I think it's all. So like when we do the review, like we're asking, well, what's going to pull us out of line? So if we're trying to go straight, what's going to pull us out of line? Who's their strength? Is it their loose head? Is it their tight head? And then we come up with all we problem solve on the run on what we're going to expect. So then this is where we go with the plan. We'll hit it, and if it's working, we'll just keep hitting it. But we've already problem solved at the start of the week, knowing this may happen or this may happen. If that happens, this is what we're going to do. If this happens, this is what we're going to do. But mate, if the same thing's working from the first scrum, like there's no reason to change that. You just keep hitting that home.
For sure. Yeah. We had a question from Damien Chan asking which country that you've gone up against as the best scrum.
Oh, probably has to be South Africa.
Yeah.
Like, I feel I had to play 80, the one in Sydney, and like, mate, that was probably one of the hardest games physically. Ball and play time, there was not much at all. Like it was probably less than 20 minutes, but there were so many scrums and so many moves, mate. Like they're technically, like they're probably not the best in comparison to like the All Blacks or something, but physically and strength wise, like, they're probably top of the chain there. And that's one of their strengths. It's something that they always go to win them the game or swing momentum.
Yeah. I've got one last question on the scrums. Like, we've seen some of these new innovations with the rules in Super Rugby. You've had a couple of weeks of it. You got to get your 30 seconds to get to the scrum. Is that really pushing you guys to get there quick, to set quick? Is it changing your preparation at all?
No, because like we've we've done that in the past. I think the average last year was probably just below 30. So when we were doing it in the trials and then in round one, and it just felt normal. So
Yeah.
as long as it said you didn't have 30, I mean, as long as it didn't say 30 seconds to engage. So from when the call was made, you have to engage in 30 seconds. Then that's probably pushing it a bit in terms of just our safety and making sure that our technique's right. But it's 30 seconds to get to the mark, which I think is plenty of time to be able to set a good scrum, get the ball out, and everyone's safe.
Sure.
So it's been good feedback so far, and I think a lot of people have said that it's sped up the game, over the first couple of weeks. So that's great feedback.
Yeah, for sure. Thallium on Twitter also asked, do you have any kind of tips, hints, tricks, or just advice you'd give to young tight head props coming through?
I think the way that I always go through is to understand where the pressure's coming from. So if pressure's coming from their tight head or coming from their loose head, you always got to go against it. So to do that for a young tight head, you got to get big and strong. You got to be flexible to get in that position. So constantly keep chipping away in the gym. And get massive there. Work on your flexibility so you can be caught in different positions but be able to work out of them.
Yeah.
I think that's been beneficial for blokes who are a lot more flexible than others.
From Rev at Rugby Fixation, who does a great podcast of his own as well, but he's asked you, what difference do you find between having either Frost, Neville, or Swain pushing from behind you in a scrum, and how much of a difference does it make in a match when your tight head lock actually changes mid-game as well?
I think the biggest difference, I can only comment on Nev and Frosty because they're pack at tight head, but Nev is just your typical tight head lock. Like he's just he loves set piece. He loves scrum. He loves line out, loves more, and just generally brings that energy. So he's just built for set piece. So every time I turn around in the scrum, he's just got his angry face on. He's yelling at me, to get him up for a scrum. And then hits rucks hard. He probably like around the field. He's probably not as gifted as Frosty. Like he's an athlete. And he's still young too, and he's been killing it the last 2 rounds for us. So it'd be awesome to see how he goes. He's a bit lighter than Nev in terms of the scrum, but he's strong. So like Nev just locks down that tight head side. So it's awesome to have like a big lock behind you. And I've packed with Frosty the last couple of years too, so he's been awesome as well. When they shift that at half time or after that, like it's at the start I was used to Nev because we packed together for a few years, but then I was trying to work that combination with Frost, and that transition was pretty hard, but mate, we're good now, so like no matter who you had there, other Nev or Frost, mate, it's awesome, man, and they both understand like their job. Like the most important person in the scrum is the tight head, and the second most important is the tight head lock.
Yeah, I love it. Like another question we had that was based around that from one of the fans was Nick Wilson. He said he would love to know who your favourite tight head lock that you've had packed behind packed behind you over your career is. If there is. I mean, you're just rattling off New South Wales, really, at the moment.
Yeah, who've come down to Canberra. So. Mate, to be honest, like Sam Carter, like he is huge. Like I was with him throughout my whole starting career at Brums, and I had no idea. Like I'm still learning my way at scrum. Like I'm getting my head shoved up my ass, like I'm getting popped. But he's so solid behind me, and I didn't actually realize that until he left when he went over to Ireland, and I was like, wow, like I didn't understand how much, like how good it was to have him behind me, and he was probably he's probably been the best between him and Nev. Like they're just big bodies, man, that like genuinely love set piece, so you can't get more than that. Like old school boys,
making your job
that
easy.
old school toughness. That's it, yeah. Yeah, I
Don't
don't
make
even
it
have to
like that
turn
anymore.
around. Some of the younger lads have to turn around and give them one to get up, instead of worrying about getting on the big screen scoring tries. So.
Yeah. We won't tell Frosh you said that.